Have you ever been erased by your own family, like you never existed? Let me tell you what it's like to show up through the back door to a party you were never meant to attend. My name's Julia Barrett. I'm 42. CIA field operative. But to the powerful Barrett family of Maryland politics, I'm just the invisible one. The disappointment. The mistake they never stopped trying to edit out of the picture. Last week, my mother called. Ice in her voice, like always. No, how are you? No, we miss you. Just instructions, Lena's having her promotion party Saturday. Don't wear your usual tactical look. And don't talk about your little work stories. That wasn't a suggestion. That was a command. She didn't even know I had just flown in from an op that saved 31 lives. I followed orders. As usual, the drive to PTOAC, Maryland should have been nostalgic. Instead, my stomach was in knots. The autumn trees blazed red and gold, but all I could hear was Mom's cold voice playing on repeat in my head. I pulled into the driveway and parked next to the overflowing recycling bins, tucked away like trash. I slipped in through the back door, like a caterer or maid. The smell of lobster puffs hit me before the sting of humiliation did, and there she was. My mother. Standing in the kitchen like she owned time itself. Hair perfect, sweater set crisp, and not a single glance up. Good. You're here, she muttered, eyes fixed on the tray of champagne flutes. No hug. No welcome. Just a gesture toward a corner table. Put your gift there. And don't disrupt anything before the speeches. Inside, the house was glowing with wealth and power, smiling faces, pearls, champagne. My dad gave me a nod. Not fatherly. Political. As if I were a fellow delegate he didn't particularly like. And then came Lena. She was radiant. And cruel. She raised her glass and her voice, just loud enough for the room. Oh, there you are. She trilled. Everyone, this is my sister Julia. She works. Somewhere. Some desk job in Langley, I think. There was polite laughter. The kind that cuts sharp. I gave them my best brittle smile, the same one I'd been wearing for decades. That ghost smile. The one you wear when you know you're not really there. Then, I saw it, on the floor by the terrace door, David's flag. The one they gave us at his funeral. Folded triangle of honor. Now? It was being used as a doorstop, a sacred symbol. Treated like trash. I froze. 31 lives saved last week. David's life gone in Libya. And this flag, on the floor like it meant nothing. I picked it up. My hand shook as I held it to my chest. It smelled like mothballs and dust. But I could almost hear his voice. David, laughing. David, yelling orders. David, gone. I couldn't take the noise anymore. I slipped out and walked into my father's library, the family shrine, mahogany bookshelves. Leather chairs. Ivy League diplomas. Photos with senators, governors, military brass, pictures of Lena smiling with presidents. My younger brother Mason in his dress blues, beaming, and then, the family portrait, only. I wasn't in it, the photo had been cropped, literally, just a sliver of grass where I used to stand. I remembered asking Aunt Nancy about it years ago. Oh honey, she'd laughed. Your mom just got a smaller frame. You didn't fit. No. I didn't fit. I had been edited out. That's when it hit me. They hadn't just forgotten me. They had deleted me. It started 20 years ago. In this very room, I hadn't quit the FBI. I had been recruited. Handpicked for an off-the-book CIA op, I came home, excited, thinking they'd be proud. I told them over dinner. My father stared into the fire. So, you're quitting? Not a question. A sentence. What do we tell people? That our daughter couldn't hack it? My mother sipped her tea, her voice smooth as satin. Not everyone's meant to be exceptional, Julia. It wasn't said with cruelty, it was worse, it was said with certainty, final. Polished. Lethal. For years, I carried those words like lead in my pockets. Swallowed them like poison, While they posted perfect Christmas photos by the fireplace, I was halfway around the world. In a decaying safe house in Kabul. Eating protein bars. Watching a terrorist compound through grainy footage. One December, I checked Instagram on a cracked phone with bad signal. Lena's post, "Family is everything. Just wish everyone was here." I was the everyone, the one never mentioned. The ghost. The one keeping them safe while they drank their wine and posed for their curated perfection. And that's when I stopped trying to be seen, I stopped trying to fit in, and I just started surviving. The ghosts of Operation Starlight never left me. It was Libya, bad intel, booby-trapped compound. The mission was dead before it began. I had a choice: follow orders and save one VIP hostage, or break protocol and rescue 3 terrified kids caught in the crossfire. I chose the kids. We got them out, but David and Mark didn't make it. They died so I could carry those kids through rubble and fire. I came back with third-degree burns up my arms. And a hole in my heart. No medals. No press. No headlines, just nightmares, and silence. Weeks later, I finally worked up the courage to call home. Dad answered. "No, where are you? No, are you safe?" Just one line: "You still doing that nameless job of yours? Then, when are you going to get a real career, Julia?" Click, I hung up. That hurt more than bullets ever could. A few nights later, in a dingy motel outside Quantico, I peeled a bloody bandage off my shoulder. Knife wound. Another scar, no doctor, no backup, just me, always just me. I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. That woman staring back, she wasn't broken, she was tired. But still standing. I whispered to myself, "You're still here, Julia. And that's enough." And it was, because I had to be. A week after that party, I found myself back at the Tombs, a bar tucked beneath Georgetown, where the ceilings were low, and the lights even lower. It was the kind of place where people came to disappear. No suits. No politics. Just bourbon, stories, and silence. That night, I was nursing a drink when I heard someone say my name, "Julia Barrett?" I'll be damned. I turned. There he was, Marcus Vance. My old instructor from the CIA farm. Older now, but still sharp. Still looking at people like he could read the thoughts you hadn't even formed yet. He didn't ask questions. Didn't make small talk. Just raised his glass and said 6 words that split something open inside me: "Damn good work. Don't sell yourself short, kid." That moment, just that, meant more than every hollow Christmas card, every fake smile at family dinners, every tight-lipped nod from my father. I felt seen, not pitted. Not tolerated, seen. Exactly 1 week later, my phone lit up. Richard Barrett. I stared at the name. My father. The man who hadn't called me in over a decade. Not even when I was hospitalized in Germany after Libya. I answered. His voice was different. Not the usual clipped tone. No coldness. This time it was smooth. Calculated. "Julia, sweetheart. How are you doing?" My stomach turned. This wasn't concern. This was strategy. I leaned back against the kitchen counter in my apartment and kept my voice flat. Cut the act. "What do you need?" He chuckled. Straight to the point. "Good. Listen. You know Senator Peterson, right?" Of course I did. I led his security detail when he made a surprise visit to a refugee camp in Amman. Saved his life when intel went sideways. Took a bullet for him. Literally. Well, Dad continued, he's the swing vote on this education bill your sister is leading. Lena's been working so hard, and, there it is, I said. You need a favor. For the family, he added, for the family. Not for you. Not because we care. Just use your body, your blood, your silence, to make Lena look good. I lied. I'll see what I can do. We both knew I wouldn't. The next day, Mom called. This time, it wasn't about a party or an outfit. She wanted lunch, at the Hay Adams Hotel, a place where DC's elite whispered power into white tablecloths and $18 salads. She wore Chanel, I wore doubt, We talked about the weather. About Lena's new committee seat. About Mason's speech at the Naval Academy. She didn't ask how I was. Not once, and then she leaned in. You owe it to this family, Julia. I sipped my coffee. Calm. Flat. For what? For everything we gave you. Her smile was tight. Her voice, all ice beneath the sugar, a name. An education. And all you ever did was chase shadows. I wanted to laugh. But I didn't. I just watched her tuck a strand of hair behind her ear like she had just delivered a compliment. Shadows. I had held the hands of kidnapped aid workers while they bled out. I had translated whispers in war zones, flipped assets, survived betrayal, and torture, and all of it was chasing shadows. That night, I was back in my motel room. Same one. Same peeling wallpaper. Same humming fridge. That's when Lena showed up, bottle of Cabernet in hand, smile painted on. I came to make peace, she said. I didn't speak. She poured a glass anyway and sat on the edge of the bed like it was college again. I've been thinking, she began, maybe it's time you had something more stable. I waited, she continued. I pulled some strings. There's a position opening up. Not a war zone. Not top secret. A desk job. In the city. Good benefits. She meant well, but that offer, that was her version of mercy, a demotion wrapped in fake compassion. I refused. Her smile cracked. She leaned in, voice suddenly sharp. Then don't blame me. I didn't understand what she meant, not yet, but I would. Days later, my phone exploded. Texts. Missed calls. Emails. An article had just gone live. Operation Starlight. CIA heroism or reckless endangerment. It was brutal. Half-truths twisted into accusations. Names redacted, but just enough breadcrumbs left to trace the story back to one person, me. They quoted anonymous sources close to the Barrett family. It was a hit piece. Designed to smear. To humiliate, to silence. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I drove to her condo, downtown. Glossy marble floors. Wine fridge humming. She opened the door, barefoot, glass in hand. Julia, she said, voice sweet with false surprise. I held up my phone. She saw the headline. Her friend, some political strategist, peeked from behind the kitchen island and laughed. Oh my God, Lena. You actually did it. Checkmate. I didn't say a word, I just walked away, but something inside me clicked. For decades, I'd held on to silence. Out of loyalty. Out of love. Out of fear. Not anymore. No more silence, no more shame. A few days later, I stood on a stage. A closed-door conference. Intelligence community only. I gave a talk on covert operations, leadership, ethical decision-making under fire. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. I didn't cry, but my hands trembled, not from nerves, from finally being heard. No cameras. No newspapers. No family, just people who knew, who respected the woman behind the file. That night, I returned to the house in PTOAC, one last time, to retrieve David's flag, to reclaim whatever pieces of me they hadn't already erased. They were all there, sitting in the dark, like it was a funeral. Lena. Red-eyed, crushed. Dad. Jaw clenched. Mom. Frozen. You destroyed everything. Dad hissed. I shook my head. No. You did. I walked into the living room, flag in hand. I just turned on the lights. I stood in that grand living room, the same one where I used to sneak in as a kid to read spy novels by the fireplace, only this time, there was no warmth, just shadows. Lena sat on the velvet couch, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Her designer heels lay discarded at her feet. Mom was frozen in her usual posture, straight back, hands folded like porcelain. But her eyes. Her eyes were vacant. Dad stood by the bar cart, fingers clenched around a crystal glass that hadn't moved in minutes. No one spoke. I held David's flag tightly against my chest and stepped forward. I placed it gently on the mantel. The place it should have been all along. You destroyed everything, Dad finally said again. Like a broken record stuck on one line, I met his eyes. No, I said quietly. You did. I just turned on the lights. Silence, then my mother's voice, a whisper, Julia. I didn't know. I looked at her, not with anger. Not anymore, you didn't want to know, I said. You had every chance to see me. You just looked the other way. She lowered her gaze. For once, no excuses, I turned to Lena. She looked smaller now. Like the spotlight had finally gone out, and all that was left was the wreckage. I don't hate you, I said honestly. But I can't have you in my life. She didn't argue, she knew. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a single silver key. I placed it on the table, gently. Like it might explode, this is the last time I'll be here. And then I walked out, each step across the marble floor echoed like a chain breaking. Weeks passed, no texts. No calls, and I didn't expect any. I moved out of DC quietly, no farewell party, no LinkedIn post, no goodbye drinks at the bar, just packed up the pieces of my life and drove south, ended up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, bought a small cabin, wood-burning stove. Wraparound porch. A porch swing that creaked when the wind pushed it just right, peace. Real peace. Not the kind you perform in Instagram captions. The silence here was different, not lonely, clean. I still work for the agency, but now I train the next generation, bright-eyed 20-somethings who think courage is about charging in with bravado. I teach them the truth, that real strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the choice to do the right thing even when no one claps. Even when no one ever knows. I teach them how to lead with compassion, not ego. How to make the hard decisions and live with them, and sometimes, when the sun sets just right over the trees and the wind carries that crisp mountain air, I sit on the porch and remember the girl I used to be, hungry for approval, desperate to fit, afraid to be erased. I don't miss her, but I honor her, because she survived. One morning in late spring, a letter arrived, no return address, just my name in familiar handwriting. Lena's. Inside was a printed transfer order, her resignation from the education committee. No fanfare. No announcement. Just gone, and at the bottom a handwritten note, I'm leaving DC. I'm moving west. Starting over. I'm learning to find my own light. Thank you for showing me the dark. No apology, but also no lies. I folded the letter quietly, no triumph, no revenge, just peace. Maybe that was the real victory. That weekend, I invited my trainees to the cabin. I grilled burgers, we talked shop, they asked about Libya, about Starlight, about the mission that haunted headlines and conference whispers. I told them the truth. I told them about the mistakes, the losses, the choices I'd make again in a heartbeat. And then I told them something else, that the hardest mission I ever had wasn't overseas. It was right here, in this country, in my own house, in my own name, fighting to be seen without a mask, fighting to be loved without conditions, fighting to matter. And maybe someone listening to this needs to hear that today, that your worth isn't tied to their recognition, that being invisible to them doesn't mean you don't exist. You do, you matter, even if they never say it, even if they never clap. Even if they cropped you out of every frame, you are still here, you're still standing. That's enough. And if no one has told you that in a long time, let me be the first. I see you, and you're doing just fine. I was 8 the first time I realized I didn't quite belong. It was the annual Barrett Christmas photo. Matching outfits, perfect hair, fake smiles. The photographer was giving directions like a drill sergeant, Lena in the center. Mason on the left. Richard, arm around your wife. And Julia. That pause, maybe stand just a bit off to the side? I remember looking up, confused. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was smiling, but even then, I could feel it. I wasn't the daughter they planned for. My siblings were golden. Lena with her speeches at student government, always in pearls even at 12. Mason, the straight-A future Navy man with perfect posture and a handshake like a politician. And me, I liked maps. Codes. Flashlights. Sneaking through the house at night pretending I was undercover. While Lena was taking ballet, I was learning Morse code with a flashlight under the covers. They thought I was weird, maybe I was, When I joined ROTC in college, my mother nearly fainted. Uniforms are for people who don't have options, she told me over brunch at the country club. You're a Barrett. We build futures, not follow orders. I didn't say anything, because I was following orders, just not hers. Years later, when the CIA came knocking, recruitment, not request, it felt like everything I had ever worked toward was finally being seen, until I came home to tell them. I thought they'd be proud. Instead, my father swirled his scotch and said, "So you're quitting the bureau?" Quitting. Not congratulations. Not be careful. Just, quitting. As if anything that wasn't his definition of success was failure, and so began the long years, years of silence. Years of Christmas cards without my name. Of Facebook posts where my siblings tagged each other and wrote "family is everything" beneath post-holiday shots. I was never in them. One year, Lena posted a photo with an empty chair between her and Mason. "Missing someone this year," she captioned it. That was for David, but I was still alive, just not counted. People always think betrayal comes with screaming. Door slams, maybe a thrown wine glass, but in my case, it came with silence, with cold smiles. With seat assignments at dinners that made it clear I was the afterthought. With Mom's friend who once asked, "So what does Julia do again?" "Something with files?" "She's an intelligence," Mom replied, sipping her tea. "But not the public kind." Then she smiled like it was a joke, and they laughed, like my entire life was a punchline. They didn't ask about the missions, about the time I got pinned in a stairwell in Belarus with a knife at my neck. Or when I had to decode a radio transmission under blackout conditions to stop a bombing in Prague. They didn't want to know, because if they knew, they'd have to face the truth, that while they built legacies with ribbon cuttings and donor galas, I was in the dark, holding it all together with duct tape and grit. After Operation Starlight, my therapist called it delayed grief, not just for David and Mark, but for myself, for the years lost. For the me that never got to exist out loud. And I guess that's what people don't understand about coming from a family like mine. It's not the coldness that hurts most, it's the erasure. The way they wipe you out of memory, one polite smile at a time. I remember Lena once said, "You just always made things harder, Jules. You were always intense." But I wasn't trying to make things harder. I was trying to matter. I didn't want to be a senator, or run a nonprofit with my name etched in marble. I just wanted to be seen, for who I was, not who they needed me to pretend to be. I'm telling you all this because I know I'm not the only one. Maybe you weren't the star student. Or the one who married the doctor. Or the one who inherited the business. Maybe you're the one who walked away, who went quiet, who built a life in the margins because the center was already full of people clapping for themselves. Let me tell you something, that life in the margins, it still counts, it matters, you matter. These days, I don't miss the dinner parties. I don't miss the post photos or the cold dining room with the gold leaf placemats and knives no one ever used. I miss David. I miss his dumb jokes and the way he always had my back, even when we were kids. He was the only one who saw me, really saw me. He died in Libya saving my life, and every morning, I fold that flag and place it above the fireplace in my cabin, not as decoration, as proof that he lived, proof that I survived, proof that what we did mattered, even if no one else clapped. People ask me if I ever think about going back to the family. About reconciliation, and I say this: you can forgive someone without letting them back in your house, you can love someone from a safe distance, and you can honor what was without re-entering the storm. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry anymore, I'm clear, because for the first time in my life, I am no longer auditioning for love, I am not waiting to be invited to the table. I built my own, and every person I train now, they don't see me as a ghost. They see me as a guide, and that's enough, that's more than enough. It was funny, really, how after everything, I ended up exactly where I started, a woman alone in the woods, staring out into the trees, wondering what it all meant. But this time, I wasn't wondering if I was enough, I knew I was, and that changed everything. I had no plan to speak publicly about Operation Starlight. In my line of work, silence wasn't just expected, it was policy. But after the smear article, after Lena's betrayal, and after standing on that intelligence conference stage, Something shifted. A week later, I was invited to give a keynote speech at a closed veterans summit in Asheville. Off the radar. No press. Just those who'd lived through the fire. I almost said no. But a younger operative, Cameron, one of my trainees, looked at me and said, "They need to hear it from someone who's still standing." So I did it. I stood in front of 300 people. Soldiers, analysts, handlers. Men and women who had lived in the shadows like I had, and I told them everything, about the safe house in Kabul, about Libya, about David, about choosing to break protocol and save 3 kids instead of just one high-value target, and about what it cost me, burns, scars, lost friends, silence from the family I'd bled for. I told them about being called a disappointment, about being edited out of my own legacy. And I ended with this: you don't need a parade to be a hero. Sometimes, just surviving is enough. The standing ovation shook me, but it wasn't the applause that hit me, it was the line of people afterward, men with tears in their eyes. Women clutching folded flags like lifelines. One man, former Marine, took my hand and said, "I never told anyone about Kandahar. I thought I was the only one who came home feeling erased." That's when I understood something I hadn't seen before: my story wasn't unique. That erasure, it's everywhere. It lives in the silence of unacknowledged sacrifice. In the empty seats at family tables. In the way some people only value you if they can brag about you, but there's a whole army of us out there, quiet warriors who never got a headline. Later that week, I got a letter from Senator Peterson, handwritten. He'd read the article that tried to smear me. Then he heard about the speech. In the note, he wrote, "If Lena had an ounce of your integrity, she'd be leading this country, not a PR campaign." That part didn't make me smile. This part did. "You protected me." I never forgot that. "If you ever need anything, call me directly." I never did, but I kept the letter, not for leverage, for truth. Months passed, seasons changed in the mountains, lush green turned golden, then crisp and bare, and I found peace in the smallest things: chopping firewood, teaching Cameron and the other recruits how to read terrain and feel their gut, drinking coffee on the porch as the mist rolled in from the hills. But part of me kept waiting, not for a call, for a moment, and then, it came. A box arrived at my cabin, no label. No return address, just a simple envelope inside, with a note from Lena: "This belonged to David. I should have given it to you sooner." Inside the box was a photo album, one I'd never seen, not the polished, posed photos from the house. These were snapshots: David in uniform, arm around me on the tarmac in Germany, us at the lake as kids, covered in mud and mosquito bites. One photo I had never seen before. It was the day of his deployment. Everyone had come to see him off. And someone, probably Mason, had snapped a photo just as I hugged David goodbye. He was whispering something in my ear, and I was smiling, a real smile, not the brittle, practiced one, but the one I hadn't seen in years. I sat on the porch for a long time that evening, flipping through those pages, letting the memories flood in, some sharp, some soft. For the first time in a long time, I cried, not because I was broken, but because I was whole, and I finally had something real to hold on to. Legacy, I realized, isn't built in headlines or Instagram posts. It's built in choices, in love without applause, in doing the hard things when no one's watching. David knew that, he lived it, and so did I. I wrote Lena a letter back, just one line: "Thank you. I hope you find your own peace." And I meant it. That weekend, my recruits graduated. We held a small ceremony, nothing fancy. I gave them each a compass. Real brass ones, old school, no GPS. No apps, just north. Remember, I told them, when everything else fails, your gut and your values will keep you on course. You don't need permission to lead. You just need to be willing to get it wrong for the right reasons. That night, we lit a fire. Cameron played guitar. Someone passed around a flask. Laughter filled the clearing. I looked around at these young, brilliant kids, and I didn't feel erased anymore. I felt written back in, not into their story, into my own, and this time, I was writing every word. A few months later, I got an unexpected email, subject line: "Family Estate Barrett House Transition." I almost deleted it, but curiosity, that old itch, got the better of me. It was from the family's estate lawyer. Apparently, my parents had decided to sell the Barrett house. Downsizing, he said. Too much maintenance. Too many ghosts. They were holding a final walkthrough before the papers were signed. Everyone had been invited, everyone. Including me. I stared at the screen for a long time. My first thought was, why would I go? But then I remembered something Marcus Vance once told me: closure doesn't knock. Sometimes, you gotta kick the damn door open yourself. So I went. The house hadn't changed, still pristine. Still cold. Still full of echoes that never quite made it out of the marble floors. It was empty now, though, no furniture. Just dust outlines where the fancy armchairs used to sit. The chandelier flickered like it knew it was the last act. I walked through slowly, room by room: the library, the staircase where David once pushed Mason on a cardboard sled and nearly broke a vase worth more than my first car, the dining room where I learned to stay quiet, and finally, the hallway, where the family photos used to hang. Most of them had been taken down. Only one was left, that cropped portrait, the one where I'd been cut out. I stood there, staring at it. Then something strange happened. I laughed, not a bitter laugh. Not angry. Just clear, because now I knew something I didn't back then. They hadn't erased me. They'd erased a version of themselves that couldn't handle who I truly was. That wasn't my loss, it was theirs. Lena walked in quietly. No makeup. No press-ready smile, just her. She stood beside me, looking at the same photo. I didn't know Mom kept that one, she said softly. Of course she did, I replied. Perfect optics. One less disappointment to explain. We stood in silence for a while. Then she reached into her bag and pulled something out, a framed photo of the original portrait, the full one. Me included. I found this in David's things, she said. He had it the whole time. She handed it to me. I figured. You should have it. I didn't say anything, just nodded, and took it. Outside, the air was warm. Spring was blooming early that year. The grass was green in a way it never looked when we lived there. I paused at the end of the driveway, the same place I used to sneak out to catch my breath as a teenager. Lena followed me. Are you okay? She asked. I thought about lying, but I didn't. No, I said. But I'm better. She nodded. I'm trying, Jules. I really am. I know, I said. Then I got in my car, and I left. No dramatic goodbye, no emotional hug in the rain. Just a final look in the rearview mirror, and the realization that this time I wasn't leaving anything behind. I had already taken back what mattered. Back at the cabin, I placed the photo from David on the mantle, right beside the flag. I didn't need it for validation. I needed it to remind myself of the journey, of who I used to be, and who I chose to become. The world didn't change. DC kept spinning. People kept chasing titles, hashtags, and validation, but my world got quiet, clear, honest. Cameron came by one afternoon, months later. He had just returned from his first field op. Harder than I thought, he said. But I kept hearing your voice in my head. Do the next right thing. Even if it's the hard thing. He paused. You saved me. Not just in training, but in how you live. I smiled, didn't say anything, because sometimes silence speaks louder than any speech ever could. That night, I lit a fire on the porch. No mission, no agenda, just warmth and stars. I sat there, listening to the wind rustle through the trees, and I whispered a simple truth to myself: you made it. I didn't need a headline, I didn't need a front row seat, and I sure as hell didn't need their approval, because somewhere along the way, I stopped chasing belonging and started living in truth. And that's where real power begins. Final message to the audience: maybe your story is different. Or maybe it's painfully similar. Maybe you've been erased. Or underestimated. Or told you weren't enough. Let me tell you something, you are. You don't need their applause. You don't need their permission. You don't need to wait for someone to hand you your worth. It was never theirs to give. It's yours. It's always been yours. And no one, not family, not failure, not fear, can take that away. If this story stirred something in you, do me a favor, tap that like button, leave a comment. Tell me the moment you stopped chasing approval and started building your own legacy. Your story might be the match someone else needs to light their fire, and if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. We rise together.